Hi, Amos here. After I write my Tokyo Headphone Festival reports, I often get asked if I can write more about local Japanese brands. And at the festivals, there is pretty much a room full of local small Japanese brands which make a number of interesting products. However, the owners of those companies aren't really interested in overseas customers, and if I do write about them, they do certainly get some interest, which can be troublesome for them if they don't speak English very well. However, one company, Aurorasound, which is run by a lovely man called Shinobu Karaki, is certainly interested in overseas customers and has been producing a number of products that have certainly taken the interest of high-end audiophiles, one of them being the VIDA or vinyl disc amplifier, which is what we know as a phonostage, which is a unique take on vinyl amplification and has certainly attracted a lot of reviews and rewards overseas. Now, on the headphone side of things, he has been producing a number of headphone amps in conjunction with Jabin. Now, my interest in Aurorasound was with one of their DIY products, which I built and reviewed on HeadFi. Now, since Karaki-san had not yet become very familiar with planar magnetic headphones, his amp really didn't have quite enough power. So I lent him a pair and suggested he try them, and what came of that was that he built a headphone amp designed to work with both high impedance headphones and the low impedance and high current demanding planar headphones, and that's what I have here, the HEADA. Now, this amp, as you can probably see from the front, is a balanced amp, both balanced input and balanced amp output, and it has certainly a number of unique features and a bit of a unique design, so let's take a closer look. The first thing you notice about the HEADA amp is that it's for a high-end headphone amplifier, it's actually quite small. For example, if I put this Shure Audio Valhalla on top of the amp, you can see that really it's up in main dimensions, it's actually not that much bigger. In depth, it actually is somewhat larger. But if you take away this wood surround, and the amp is optionally available without the wood surround, it's actually pretty much the same size. Now, the Japanese market is still big on their dual 3-pin XLR outputs, which is the Headroom original style, but of course HeadFi has pretty much moved into the 4-pin XLR output as standard, so both of those are available. And of course you have a high quality, very smooth and very good volume control, and your input switch and high gain and low gain, as well as the power switch on the front. Jumping around to the back, to the inputs, as well as the regular power input, which will take voltages either for Japan and North America, or your 220 to 240 volt countries in Europe and what have you. The amplifier, of course, as I mentioned on the front, has two inputs. Input 1 has either can be used single-ended or balanced as required. Input 2 is single-ended only, and if the amp is switched on, the input will be passed through to the through output, so you can connect it to another device as necessary. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any preamp option, which would make it more versatile, but if you have another device which has a volume control, you could use it in a system with both headphones and speakers. My first concern was that now that I use the Chord Hugo as my main DAC, I was worried that, given its high level of detail retrieval and its excellent headphone amp built in, that if I added an amp onto it, that the sound would be degraded in some way. I'd lose some detail or lose something in it when I was listening. And I was very pleased to find out that, in fact, it was the opposite case with the HEADA. I didn't feel I was losing any detail at all. If anything, it enhanced the dynamics of the music while still zooming in on the fine details of what I was listening to. And that was true whether I plugged in, say, my Sennheiser HD800s or the Odyssey LCD-X. I still felt that the amp, in a sense, almost disappeared. The only thing it seems to do is add a very slight touch of relaxation and warmth to the sound. It is not strictly neutral. But that works really well with the Hugo, and I think works really well with the Sennheiser HD800s and the Odyssey cans, both of which I'd like to have a very slightly warm amp. But in that, I still find that the HEADA is quite ruthless, despite its presentation, and it would not present, say, poorer recordings any more forgivingly than any other high-end amp should. The funny thing about it is, comparing it to my ALO Audio Studio 6, which I consider my reference, is that I reckon if you put a pair of headphones on someone's head and without them seeing which amp they were listening to, if they let them listen to the Studio 6, then let them listen to the Head A and ask them to guess which was the tube amp, they probably guessed that the Head A was the tube amp. And so that's what I find really excellent about the Head A, is that at the same time, while giving a very slightly kind of relaxed and easy listening presentation, and effortless presentation with a touch of warmth, at the same time it doesn't do anything to sacrifice the level of detail retrieval or the dynamics or anything else. In fact, it seems to enhance them. And that's what I think is really remarkable about the design. And all that without a big, heavy, hot amp that takes up massive amounts of space. And it's the largest amp that actually fit in the spare space on my desk. So my original concerns about what Karaki-san would be able to produce in terms of a high-end headphone amp were completely blown away. I have absolutely no concerns at all. If anything, what was interesting is I found that if I plugged in 2 pairs of headphones into the balanced outputs, that there was absolutely zero change in the audio level or anything else in doing so, even if those headphones were completely different. What's more, if you plug in IEMs into, I did at least into the single-ended output, that while there was a tiny amount of hiss, and I don't have the most sensitive IEMs on the planet, it was still usable with everything I had from my custom IEMs through to my high-end headphones. And that makes it a really awesome all-round amp. So if you have a really good source, whether balanced or single-ended, this is a fantastic amp out of Japan that you may wish to consider, even if you already do have a very, very good source with a very, very good headphone amplifier like the Chord Hugo. So thank you once again for watching my video, and I'll see you online.